Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're doing a top 5 list of the top 5 decks that you can build for $5 or less. So I'm really excited to do this one because I was actually inspired by Team Yada Locked, which is a really interesting YouTube channel that took an Appliancer deck of all things and actually turned it into a meta contending build that took on like Dogmatica Invoked, which was like totally crazy. Like I was like, wait, they did what with the deck? They did what with Appliancers? And so I wanted to actually make a list of my own of the top 5 decks that I could build for under $5. Now keep in mind as we go through this list, this is just going to be for the deck core itself because you can get all sorts of different staples depending on your budget, from 5 cents all the way up to $90 staples like Forbidden Droplets, where you can use really cheap staples like Forbidden Chalice or Mirror Force or Magic Cylinders, stuff like that that you can just throw into the deck to kind of fill in the positions of other cards that you might not be able to currently afford, which is going to help you out a lot in the long run to be able to slowly upgrade your $5 deck to be a really good, really crazy deck. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name in the description of every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron along with test hands. And let's get straight on into the list guys. If you ever wanted to build a deck based around Maneater Bug but just didn't know quite how to do it, well, in the number 5 slot, I actually have the perfect deck for you, which actually I've already kind of built on the channel thanks to one of my patrons, Izzy. So I'm really excited to bring number 5 to you guys because it's actually going to be Crawlers, which is a really interesting deck that actually is based around flip effect bugs. Ugh. But it's really good, and it actually is really fun to play because they all float. Because when they're destroyed by your opponent's card effects, they actually replace themselves not only with one monster, but with 2. And they're also part of the World Legacy archetype as well, which is really cool for the lore aspect of the entire deck. So we might even get more support for the deck in the future, which could really help this deck. It is a flip effect deck that actually revolves around you setting your monsters face down, and then setting a couple of back row cards to back it up, but it's a really good overall deck for somebody who's beginning in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or somebody who just wants a really fun flip effect deck. And you can even combine it with all sorts of other builds like Shaddolls to even make this deck better if you want to go a little bit higher on the budget. But if you just want to build a core crawler deck, you can do it for $5. So let's go ahead and talk about the most expensive card in the entire deck, which is actually Quarliarch. Quarliarch sits at around 15 cents as the most expensive card in the entire the entire deck. And you can actually build a fully flushed out extra deck because all you really need for this entire deck is to play 3 of each of the Crawler extra deck monsters, which there is 3 Crawler extra deck monsters for the entire deck. And it's a really interesting deck because as you get more monsters on the field with Quarliarch, Quarliarch gains additional really busted effects, which is really cool. So it's basically a swarm-based bug deck that can summon all these really cool boss monsters to your side of the field while also giving you flip effect monsters that as they flip give you more advantage to your opponent, that as they attack into you, you gain advantage against them, which is super cool. So for number 4 guys, we're actually going to be talking about a deck called Phantasm Spiral, which is based on a super old school card called Ummi, which is a really interesting concept to me because Ummi's been retrained so many times, it's ridiculous. But the actual most powerful version of it actually lies in this particular deck in the form of Phantasm Spiral City, or Pacifica the Phantasm City, which is a extremely powerful field spell that has a really unique effect. Now I actually want to read this card to you so you guys can understand exactly how powerful this card is. So what this card does is it's always treated as Ummi while it's on the field. And it also has the ability that you cannot normal or special summon effect monsters the turn you activate this effect. Also, it has the effect of if you normal summon exactly, or normal or special summon exactly 1 normal monster to your field, then you get to add any Phantasm Spiral card from your deck to your hand, which there is a bunch, and I mean a bunch, of equip spells that you can add from your deck to your hand, and even some powerful trap cards that you can add from your deck to your hand that give you a big boost against your opponent when you're playing this particular deck. It also has a third really powerful effect that has the ability that whenever your opponent activates a card or effect, you get to special summon as long as you don't control another token, a token on your side of the field that is a level 8, 2000 attack, 2000 defense, which is a ridiculously powerful token, especially when you consider that you're going to be able to equip it with other equip spells and give yourself boosts. Now, the really amazing thing about this deck is actually Pacifica is the most powerful and the most expensive card in the deck, sitting at about 20 cents. And the really cool other thing is you can also throw literally any normal monster that you want to into this deck that's a level 4 normal monster that has high attack points and go off with this deck. Like, you can use cards like Alexandrite Dragon, Vorse Raider, stuff like that. You can make Beast Warrior variants of this deck. You can make a Worm variant of this deck. Whatever you have at your disposal that's very cheap, you can actually throw into this deck and make the deck work, which is really, really amazing. So for number 3, guys, we're actually going to be talking about a really cool old school deck that Yugioh himself used back in Duel Monsters, which is really cool that you can actually play an old school nostalgic deck like that on this list. And it's actually going to be Gadgets. So Gadgets are a really amazing deck that you can actually build around summoning rank 4 monsters onto your side of the field, because as you summon your gadgets to your field, for example, your red gadget, yellow gadget, and green gadget, they will actually search red, yellow, and green, which is really cool depending on which one you actually summon to your field, which I really like that concept, because as long as you have one of them in your hand, you can always get a second monster. But the deck got a real big boost after the movie Dark Dimensions because we got the gold and silver gadget to add to the deck. And those monsters are really, really good and really, really cheap, only going in at about 10 cents a piece, which is really amazing. I really think that that's a cool thing that you have such a generic good card that when you normal summon it, you can special summon another level 4 from your hand or another gadget from your hand, which can get you a really, really, really good monster on the field in the form of a rank 4, because you can overlay those two monsters to go into any rank 4 that you want in the game, or link summon as well into a link 2, which can help you out a lot in your strategy, and especially with rank 4s, because a lot of rank 4s can be really budget in this game, because rank 4s are probably one of the easiest mechanics in the entire game to summon to your side of the field, and one of the most supported is going to actually be not link monsters, but XZ monsters that you're going to be able to use in your extra deck, which is really helpful for a deck like this. Now, the most expensive card in this deck is going to be a little, pricey, sitting at about 38 cents. And it's actually going to be Boot Up Admiral. So Boot Up Admiral is a really interesting card that's going to be your boss monster. It gives you a pop once per turn, and to summon it, it's really easy, because when you summon it to your field, all you have to do is send 2 gadgets from your hand or your field to the graveyard, and when you summon it to your field, you're basically getting a really big boss monster as well, and with your gadgets upon normal summon getting you another search, this card is going to be really easy to summon to your field. So for number 2, guys, we're actually going to be talking about my personal favorite pendulum deck in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's actually going to be Dynomist. So Dynomist is a very interesting pendulum deck that is just really, really cool, and it has so much support because it's actually a water deck that can get you all sorts of really amazing stuff, but can make some really simple boards as well, where you can pendulum summon all of your monsters to your field to swarm your opponent, and then summon stuff like Mistar Boy, which is a very cheap link monster, and Abyss Dweller, who's been reprinted a bunch, to give all of your monsters a boost of about 1,000 attack points upon summon, which is really, really good. I really love the way that this deck actually plays, and it just is like one of my favorite pendulum decks, because you can include all sorts of generic cards if you want to slowly upgrade the deck, like Totally Awesome, Bahamut Shark, or you could just go with a standard rank 5 build or rank 4 build or just a link build. It's totally up to you how you play this particular deck, and you can build it for really cheap, because the most expensive card in the entire deck is actually Dynomist Rex, and it's about 20 cents for that card, and everything else in the deck is like 10 cents. And you can include some really cool staple cards in this deck, like Limiter Removal to boost the attack of all of your Dynomist monsters on your field, because they're machine water monsters as well. So you have 2 of the most supported typings. You have the most supported type and the most supported attribute, well, one of the most supported attributes in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it just is a recipe for an amazing deck. I really love playing around with Dynomist, and it's a super fun deck to actually play. And if you guys want a cool pendulum deck, you definitely should pick up Dynomist. Have you ever looked at your coffee maker and been like, I could put you in a death match? Well, this deck is actually going to be for you, and it was actually the deck that inspired this entire list. And I think it is the #1 deck to actually build on a budget, and it's actually going to be Appliancers. And I absolutely love this deck. I think it's the cutest deck on the entire list. I think it's hilarious that you actually look at your microwave, your laundry, like your washing machine, and your coffee maker, and you're like, yeah, you're going to fight for me. That's pretty funny. And it's actually basically a link deck that can just throw out a bunch of link monsters against your opponent. You can actually build a deck based around this and just play like 3 of each of the Appliancer monsters and a couple of staple cards in the deck, just like Team Yadalock did, to be able to take on some really interesting stuff. Now, my favorite card in the entire deck is actually going to be Laundry Dragon, because that's actually the reason I picked the deck up to begin with, was because it was so cheap and I built everything. And I loved the artwork of Laundry Dragon. And the deck is actually super interesting because the way the deck actually plays is it depends on if you're co-linked or if you're not co-linked. Depending on what effect your link monster gets, which is a very interesting concept for this particular build. And for this particular deck, I love the way the deck plays, and it's super fun to actually think about this deck because you're basically just playing a bunch of appliances in your deck. Like, I'm literally winning with a power strip. Like, it's hilarious. I think it's funny. Like, I just see myself just rolling up, and I'm like, yeah, I got my socket troll. Let's go. I'm ready to go to locals. Like, let's do this. I brought my washing machine. Let's do this. like what? This deck is hilarious, and I love the way that it plays. So I hope you guys did enjoy this particular list. It's super fun to think that you can actually build Yu-Gi-Oh decks for a budget, which is just super, super cool to be able to actually play all these decks with just like this really crazy budget. And the really cool thing I will mention to you guys as well about Appliancers before we go is you can actually build the entire deck for less than $5, because every card in the deck is less than 10 cents. Like, everything is less than 10 cents. I think when I looked it up before this video, everything was like 9 or 10 cents for the entire deck. Like, all the link monsters were like 9 cents. The socket troll was like 10 cents, and I think that the breaker was like 10 cents. Like, I'm literally attacking you with a breaker. Like, that's hilarious. Like, that's funny. So I think that's going to be it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below. If you guys did enjoy this $5 list, definitely tell me what you think of this one down in the comments down below. If you want to see more of these, I would love to do a series of these where we go through all sorts of different lists of budgets to see how high we can go up with this particular one, because it's super fun. I think it's a super cool concept to come up with the best decks that you can actually build on a budget. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.